I'm Karen. I actually live in Southport now, but I'm from Bury in Lancashire. I'm 67. I'm retired, retired midwife, recently retired. Mother, grandmother, and hobbies are varied. I like to socialise, I like to walk, I like the countryside, I like to read, I like to go to theatre if I can. So I've got a variety of social activities. How it started for me, really, was probably 7 years ago when my pain started. And it was very bad. It actually disrupted my whole life. It was, I suppose, I felt quite alone at the time because it was, at the time I hadn't realised it was chronic pain I was suffering from. I thought it was my back, I couldn't mobilise, difficulty in working, struggling with relationships with my family, being able to actually go and see my family, having to really take stock of everything and check everything that I did, limited my life really completely. And then I became quite depressed. And really just, I tried to set myself on a journey to try and find what the problem was, really, a diagnosis. And I suppose for myself, I imagined it as though, or I do now when I'm looking back, I was sort of in the middle of a maze and trying to find a way of coping, trying to find one road out of the maze. Maybe initially, probably it was the doctor, and then another way out was analgesia, pain relief. Another way was investigations, treatments, MRI, scans, the whole lot. But every time, every path I took always brought me back to the same point, which was in the middle of the maze. And that went on and on and on for a very long time. Always thinking that I was going to, this time, there was going to be a way to find myself out of the maze, always finding myself right back in the middle of the maze. In the end, I just thought, this is going to be how it's going to be. I can't see any other way out. And probably about 12 months ago, I didn't think things could get any worse, and they did. And there were problems with my ability at work. Then I had problems with pain, other referred pain, which was a problem with my leg, my knee. And then, if things couldn't get any worse, I started suffering with tinnitus. And I thought, this is just, I couldn't find a way out. Again, I was like in the middle of the maze, started on that journey again of trying to find a way out, still finding myself back in the middle of the maze. And then, and I really don't know how, but it was as though I'd tried each area and always found of getting out of the maze and always found myself back in the middle. Medication for me, initially it wasn't a route I wanted to go down, but it was one of those avenues, one of the ways that I thought, I'm going to have to do something because I can't continue the way I'm going. So I sort of relented and started to take medication. And I was on I've been on medication actually for probably now, it's probably been about 6 years. And gone through different types of medication, and medication that I have been on for some considerable time is a form of anti-epileptic medication that is actually you sort of have to continue to take unless you start to slowly take yourself off, and then there's a process of withdrawal, because that generally tends to be the same for most of the medication that you take when you suffer with chronic pain. For me, it's always been a battle taking medication because I've never wanted to be in that position where I felt reliant on it. And I have very slowly attempted to take myself off medication, just using as small a dose as I can in a way to help me withdraw from it slowly. The problem is really, I feel as though I'm never going to find a way out. It's affecting my daily life, it's affecting my sleep now at night, which has always been disrupted because of the pain, the chronic pain that I suffer with. But the tinnitus is just on a different level, and I can't find a way out. And I really don't know how it happened. But it seemed as though I found almost like another exit, if I'm trying to sort of think of the maze. And I'd not been down that road before. I'd not gone that way before. And I went. I took myself off and took a different path. And I found myself not back in the middle of the maze, where I'd always found myself before. I found myself still in the maze, but I was on a different level. I'd taken a different journey, and it had taken me to a different spot. And that was the beginning for me. That was a breakthrough, massive. It had taken me on a different journey, and I think for the first time, it made me feel as though I wasn't afraid anymore. I was still in the maze, but I wasn't frightened of it anymore, because I'd moved from being stuck to being on a different level. So that gave me, I suppose, a feeling of empowerment, really, inner strength, all those things that you can think of. Positivity, looking forward. Because I'd moved from that spot that I'd been stuck in for so long, and never thought I'd get out of, to a different place, still in the maze, but in a different place. And that was self-satisfying, and just made me look at things differently. And I suppose made me challenge me even more, to not be frightened of looking at different ways to make my way through the maze. The pain management course for me was definitely a step in the right direction, because I think maybe I was just ready for it. I don't know. But I do feel I am open-minded, and I do like to challenge myself. And the pain management course for me was, it helped me understand about my pain, not be fearful of it, but to sort of embrace it in a way, really. So because I was understanding more about my pain and why it was really something that wasn't going to go away, because someone was actually giving me that information, I felt more at ease about my chronic pain, more acceptance of it, really. And before that, I was, going round and round, coming back to the same point in the maze, really. Ignorant, really, in a way, really, just finding myself in the same situation, whereas the pain management course was allowing me to look at areas about my condition that I hadn't really explored before, and ways to cope with my pain that I hadn't really explored before. And because the course was varied, it was educational, there was physio, there was also communication with other people who were suffering with chronic pain. So there was a social aspect of it. And if I'm looking back at the course, I think it was probably because it wasn't just a short burst of information. It went over a period of time where you could gather all this information slowly and absorb it better over a period of time, rather than being a snapshot. Well, I have always, and before I became, I suppose, I'd say, a sufferer of chronic pain, I used to jog, I used to be quite active. And slowly, over the years, I've still been active because I've always pushed myself. But not realising it, I have been very rigid in my approach to exercise, and I've been really fearful of hurting myself or damaging myself even more. And my back, so I've been aware of my back, I've been aware of my movements, so all of my movements have been strained and rather, I suppose, mechanical, really. And coming on the course, I sort of had one of those light bulb moments when all of a sudden I realised that all the exercise that I'd been doing, and I was still doing, I wasn't doing it to my own advantage. In fact, I was probably making myself worse by the way I was exercising, by the way my posture, by the way I was holding myself. So now I've got more understanding of pain and chronic pain generally. I've got more understanding of how I need to exercise. I am moving differently, and my posture's different. I exercise differently. I found that before I was very stiff, very rigid, not flexible, and that actually really was very detrimental to how I was managing doing everything, really, from round the house to when I went out for walks with friends. I was always stiff. I was always unflexible. If I bent down to pick anything up, I used to think about my back, and I used to bend down with that in mind. So when I bent down with where my posture and my back was quite stiff. I felt I was doing it to try and benefit my back, so I wouldn't injure my back any further, because I know I have a problem with the nerves in my right leg. But then when I realised, and it was through my sessions with yourself, Graham, that what I was doing, how I was sitting, how I was standing, how I was walking even, was I was consciously thinking of what I was doing rather than just going with the moment and being freer with my body and with my movement. And that has made, I can't tell you the difference that's made. Absolute. I'm like a different person.
Do you think that's about your back then now?
Yeah, about my back, but it's gone on to how I feel about myself, the confidence it's given me, because I don't feel as though I'm in dire pain all the time. I used to feel all the time. I used to be conscious of either I've got a pain in my lower back, and when I sit down, and I'm not saying that it's gone. My pain hasn't gone, but the management, I'm able to manage it better. I'm able to, because I'm freer of movement. I'm not as stiff, and I'm not as rigid, and I used to get referred pain, and I just thought it was coming from my back, and it wasn't. It was actually from the way that I was actually moving or not moving. I used to get terrible pains on the tops of my legs. I used to get pelvic pain, groin pain, pain in my hips. That has eased tremendously. And I do, it can only be one reason behind it, and that is because I have a freer movement. I'm moving freer. I'm moving. I'm not as rigid. I'm more relaxed when I move. When I sit down, and my posture's not the same when I sit down. I used to sit down before, and I was always conscious of trying to be in a certain position, so I'd hold my back in a very rigid way. Now I'm I sit more into the chair. I am truly a different person because of that.
How did you learn to relax? How did you learn to let go?
Well, definitely for me, it has been coming to the pain management classes and being able to have the information given by an experienced physio, someone that's actually been able to see what I'm doing wrong and to sort of, give me that information as to how to correct what I'm doing in order to benefit myself.
And did you use sort of breathing exercises?
Yes, I do the breathing exercises. I do mindfulness. I do the relaxing technique, which is that's important. Breathing helps you to relax, and exercising is made better once you're in a relaxed state of mind.
I know that you're a keen walker and you do regular walk. What difference does that make to managing your pain doing these regular walks?
Yeah, it gives you a very positive outlook because I've met, that's been a recent event for me. It's probably only been walking now, probably just about 2 years, and that happened when I lost my dog. I needed to be able to still keep active, and yet I didn't know how to initially. And a friend, an old friend, someone I've known for a long time, by chance bumped into her shortly after I'd lost my dog, and she happened to say, "We go walking, there's a group of us that go walking not every Sunday, but most Sundays. Would you like to come with us?" And I did.
Do you feel fitter and stronger for it?
Yes, definitely, because I feel fitter in body and mind as well, because the walking is met a group of different people, and it's a social event as well as keeping fit.
Does that social aspect help manage pain?
Yeah, definitely.
How does that help?
Yes. The social aspect helps me manage my pain because it takes your mind away from your pain. So it's not a constant, you're not reminded constantly of it. You've got it's a distraction. It's a distraction where, because when you're walking, you encounter, the scenery changes, doesn't it? Your conversation changes according to the scenery. Your mindset is constantly changing. So that in itself is a way to stop you thinking about your pain. And in fact, what I found also was that I had no problems with tinnitus when I was walking. And then it wasn't initially something that I thought about. It was only afterwards when I started thinking that the tinnitus and the chronic pain, the relationship with them both is the same, really. And your way to try or the way for me, that I was dealing with them was the same way.
So it sounds like there's a physical component of managing pain, like improving condition, but also improving emotional well-being.
It's not possible one without the other. It's not possible to deal with chronic pain unless you're dealing with it from a different approach. It's not just all about the physical aspect. I've found on my journey, it's about getting the right information. I found that initially I was finding myself back in the middle of the maze because I was going round in circles, finding myself in the same spot because that information I was getting wasn't the right type of information. So I was searching, but never getting out of, that same spot in the middle. I personally, for me, and I don't think I would have been able to move from the position I was in before to the position I'm in now without the pain management course. I think it's given me the ability to be able to move from the situation I was in, which at the time I felt I'd never get out of, to a position now where I'm in a different frame of mind and not only a different frame of mind, but I feel as though physically I'm in a different place. What did I start doing differently? I I suppose initially I started thinking of myself differently. And because I'd moved from being stuck, I'd actually taken on a different challenge. And that allowed me to be freer with myself, I suppose. And certain things began to fall into place a little bit. And I don't know whether it was just coincidental, but I stopped working. So I'd made a conscious decision that I couldn't work anymore. I think that was one major change that I made. I'd actually started to have a different type of therapy for my tinnitus, which was enlightening and helped me to deal with it. And also, at the same time, I was fortunate enough to start on the pain management course. And it was just like everything had slotted in a very convenient time. And that took me on another journey. So it allowed me to, or it gave me knowledge, and it helped me understand more about myself and look at ways that I could perhaps benefit myself. The tips that I would attempt to give myself, or the little voice in my head that is a conversation in itself, talking to me, telling me or saying to me, urging me on, telling me that this is just, I'm still on the journey. I am actually still, in the maze. I'm still on that journey. But I think what I would say to myself is not to be fearful anymore, not to be afraid anymore. As they say, like, take the bull by the horns, I think they say, don't they? That's one of the sayings. I think for me, I feel more courageous now. So I feel that I have an ability to continue without being frightened of the maze anymore, but to continue on this journey. And I feel as though it is now, it's a journey. It's a journey that it's not the same journey I've been on, because the condition won't go away. But I feel as though, and the conversation that I have with myself is urging me to not be frightened anymore, not be afraid anymore, and to try and be open to doing things that I would probably not have done a few years ago, or attempted to have done a few years ago.
How do you let go of fear?
Well, it doesn't happen overnight. For me, it's been a long process. I think it's never giving up, I think, for me, really, in a way. It's a challenge, and seeing it as a challenge, continue to move on, I think, rather than just to be stuck in that spot. Because you will find a way out. It's just being persistent. Even if you find yourself back in that same spot, I think you've got to, not just about hope, it's about trying, attempting, pushing yourself to just try maybe a different path, because that path might work for you. as it has worked for me. And I've just been fortunate enough that I found it.
What's good about being you now?
Oh, what's good about being me now? I suppose the position that I'm in now, that I can be sitting here telling people that the pain management course has worked. It's worked for me. It's made me a happier person. It's made me want to look forward rather than being constantly stuck in that position I was in before, where really all I was doing was just reminiscing. Well, not reminiscing, that's the wrong word, but just being sad, really, and thinking of how I was, what I did, how active I was, what my life was like before I had chronic pain. I'm not thinking like that anymore. I feel as though now I'm thinking more about my life as it's a journey, and I'm not frightened of it anymore. And I'm a happier person for it. I feel as though I'm a happier person. I feel I'm more relaxed about myself, and I'm more relaxed towards other people. I'm not quite as, I suppose, irritable as I was before. I think I was probably, a lot of the time, maybe not quite a nice person to be around some of the time. While I've been on the pain management course and I've become more aware, more understanding more about medication, it's been something that I've really wanted to set my mind to come off medication, if at all possible. And while I've been on the pain management course, that's something that I've been doing. And I'm in a situation now where I've had some information about how to take myself off medication, how to do it safely, and that it's a possibility that I can do it. And I know I can do it because I understand what medication does and doesn't do. And I'm on a very low dose of my medication at the moment. And my aim is to come off my anti-epileptic medication, which is nerve pain medication, in the next few weeks. I'm on a low enough dose, and I've been told it's quite safe for me to stop it completely. And there is a safety net for me. I am able to have a consultation if I need it, if I feel that it's not, and I'm not able to manage without it completely. But I feel as though I will be able to manage without it. I take other forms of medication occasionally, very occasionally. I take painkillers very occasionally. So I found now that if I do need medication, say for instance naproxen, which I take very, very rarely, but when I do take it, it works in a way for me far better because I'm taking it very infrequently. So it does work better for me doing it that way. I just wish I'd known more about medication earlier on, I don't think I necessarily would have got into the situation now where I'm having to come off medication. I think I might not have gone on that journey initially. What am I doing instead of taking my medication? Well, I think I'm actually I'm doing things like, because I am aware of more of my physical ability. I'm able to exercise more freely. That's allowing me to feel physically better. So I'm not feeling the need to medicate. For instance, this morning, I was struggling a little bit with pain, but I took my mind away from it and started to do something else. I think it's taken me a while to find a different way of coping with pain, or finding the strength to feel that I can actually reduce my medication. I was in a stage where I felt I needed to be medicated. And then I got into a situation where I was taking more medication because it didn't seem to be working, the dosage that I was on. So then I started to think, well, what kind of situation am I going to be in if this continues? If I continue to take more medication, or a different medication as well as the medication that I'm on, I'm going to be, and this is for the rest of my life. And if I'm looking, at living for some considerable time, what quality is my life going to be if I'm going to be completely medicated by the time, in the next sort of 10 years, I'm still on medication and I'm going to be completely addicted to it. So I have looked at different ways of trying to cope with taking my mind off being in pain. I do feel, though, that it is sometimes you're given the choice of medication, or you think that it's a way that's going to benefit you, so you go along that route because you feel that it's the right route for you. And then I think because of the information that you get, you feel that there's no other way that you can deal with your pain other than be medicated. And that can lead to quite it can lead to more difficulties, I think, and more problems. I wasn't aware of that initially. Now I'm in this position, I can speak about it differently.
Sounds like you're a lot more confident to deal with it with the skills what you've developed, by the sound of it.
Yes, I feel as though, again, I feel where pain is concerned and medication is concerned. I feel because now I'm not in that frightened state. I'm not afraid anymore. I'm more willing, more able to challenge myself as to, going that extra step. And by reducing my medication, that for me it's a challenge, and it's something that I feel ready for. I've started the process, and I want to try and succeed.